I can't move my arms and legs on my own. Somebody else can do it, but from the neck down, I can't move any muscles at all. I can't wiggle my fingers or but I'm very lucky for some reason. The nerves from the neck upwards still work.
About 30 years ago, Patrick McAllister was a computer programmer earning $1,500 an hour. He was a new father to two little girls, and life was going smoothly.
As a child, he was very rambunctious. Of course, the first child, you're not used to that, and he ran around a lot and explored everything. When I would take him someplace, he would have his head underneath the fountain, the drinking fountain, to see how the water got out. And just things like that. He was just, in fact, when he was a little older and we took the two, Pat and his younger sister, to Chicago on the train, they just chattered and chattered constantly, especially Pat. And the woman sitting behind him said, you know, I've seen things on this train ride I do all the time, and I never noticed before. It just because they were so conscious of everything that was going on, you know.
He was kind of a hippie, and he also likes to tell about the fact that the girls used to like him pretty well.
But life for Pat was about to change.
So the traffic cleared on one side, and we were walking across, and all of a sudden a car came out of who knows where. And the other four guys, like, kind of jogged across real quick, you know, to get out of traffic. And I tried to do that, and I couldn't run. Some people can live to 80 or 80, 85, 90 years old. And other people, it affects their breathing and the heart, and they're dead by the time they're 40. And so I had no idea how bad this might get for me.
Doctors diagnosed Pat with having multiple sclerosis, a disease that over the years has weakened his vocal cords.
Right. I saw a bumper sticker. It said, my child is an honor student, but my president is an idiot.
MS, as the disease is known for short, is an autoimmune condition in which the immune system attacks the central nervous system.
While I fix dinner, he sleeps a little or talks, or I read him things from the articles that I think he's going to be interested in.
Pat is one of 400,000 Americans with this disease, a disease with no known cure that can eventually lead to death. Yet despite the grim statistics, Pat is determined to beat the odds. His fierce determination and seemingly indomitable spirit are traits that many who know him marvel at and wonder how can he really consider himself so lucky. Ken and Pat have been friends for over 15 years. The two men met at church and struck up a friendship that has grown closer through the years. They go everywhere together, anything to get Pat out of the nursing home he now lives in.
The people at the nursing home have learned, don't get in a panic if Pat isn't back here by 12 o'clock, for instance, because we know they're somewhere talking. This has happened several times, and one time the nursing home called me and said, we're worried about Pat. And I said, well, I am too, to tell you the truth. I don't have a clue where they are. They were, I don't know, he'd taken them somewhere to get a bite to eat or something, and they had some old friend of Pat's was there or something. So they just lost track of time and just sat there and talked a couple hours. I said, Ken, you know, the nursing home's worried about it. They just don't think anything about the time, you know. They're having a good time, so, you know.
He was in a room with a guy who was diabetic, about his age. And I couldn't figure out why, when I went in the room, this guy was in bed with a jacket on all the time. Well, Pat had to have a room with air conditioning year-round. And he loves the cool air. Couldn't stand any heat. So eventually he got a private room, and that's where he is now, and that room is his room. Whenever he leaves there, they're going to have to rebuild the place. There's so many wires and gadgets in there that they'll need a couple of geeks to put that back together.
Ken just loves him so much. We both do. And when Pat gets really sick, and we're afraid he's not going to live, you know, I can just tell Ken is just like, what am I ever going to do without Pat? And he's told me many times, Pat's my best friend, my best male friend. They really have a very close relationship. But, you know, they've done things together for so many years now. So naturally, you're going to become very close. And there's been a few times he's had pneumonia. And I don't know how long ago it was, maybe 4 years ago, I would say. He was very close to death. And no one thought he would live. And they'd called in his daughters, his wife, everybody was there. And they had to make a decision. He was on life support. And they had to make a decision whether they would pull the tubes that were helping him breathe. And then the family had to make a decision, if we do that, you know, it's okay, then we'll just let him go. And if he can't breathe on his own, and we won't resuscitate him. The family agreed to that, because that was Pat's wishes. But, you know, Pat just has this spirit about him. He wants to live, you know. And we couldn't believe it. I mean, he survived. I mean, he was able to breathe on his own, and nobody thought he'd be able to do that. So that was the closest call I can remember.
For example, one of the things we do at our house on Christmas Eve, my wife and I host the entire church at our house. And she makes bread, and I make pies, and after the Christmas Eve service, the whole church comes. Our house is, you have to go up at least 5 steps to get in. We're not accessible at all. So last year, Pat came, had someone bring him in his van. He came to the party in his van and sat outside our door. You know, it's just yeah, that's really something when you think about it, to not just go home and go back to his room, but come and join the party even though you can't get in the house. You know, that's pretty amazing.
Throughout our interview, we've been hearing a voice. Tell us a little bit about the equipment that helps you every single day.
By sipping and puffing on this straw, I can drive the wheelchair around. They give you a month to learn how to use it. I learned how to work it in probably an hour and a half, and because I was a programmer before. Okay. And so if I go, I can turn them. I can drive around. And I can change position. I can go. And if I go, open. Too many beeps.
One time I made a mistake and I didn't get the get them hooked right. And I had them both hooked to the big wheel on the back. And the little wheel was loose, and I'd forgotten to hook it down. Went over a big bump, and I looked back, and I can see in the rearview mirror, usually I see his head. I saw his feet sticking up. The thing had spiraled, backwards. And the van has real heavy springs on, so when you hit any bump, it's really rough. And he hit this bump, and his feet were up, and he's hollering. Luckily, he didn't hit his head on anything, and had that big cushion thing behind him. So I finally pulled him over to the side and got him straightened up again. And been a few things like that surprise him. But he doesn't get angry.
He didn't.
No. He
We just love Pat. He's done so much for us to bless our lives. A lot more than we have done for him, I think. He's just such an inspiration with his positive attitude, and he can't move any part of his body except his head. But as he always says, all I have going for me is up here.
One of the reasons Pat is so hopeful is his belief in stem cell research.
Your own body produces stem cells. Every person's body does that. And they travel around through your blood then. So if you fall and you skin your knee, those cells turn into skin cells. And if you break your arm, you put your arm in a cast, those cells get into the crack in your arm and they turn into bone cells. And like if you were to scratch your eye, on something, if they would turn into eye cells, and they can turn into any kind of cell in your entire body. And in my case, if we can regrow the myelin on my spinal cord, then I'll jog home from it.
That'll be nice, huh? Doing laps around this place.
That's right, exactly. And in fact, I think, I don't know, but probably in, 20 years or so, they'll be able to repair all kinds of people's problems.
And I do hope you make them realize that not everybody that has MS ends up, in a wheelchair. Because I think it would be very depressing if you knew in the beginning that most people, and if you think that people end up in wheelchairs. I have friends who just have the exacerbating remitting, where they just, a few times a year, they'll have severe problems where they can't see well, and then they're okay after a week or two.
We don't know if stem cell research will ever cure Pat, but we do know his positive spirit, at least in some ways, may already have.
Oh, I'm very proud of him. And the nice things that people say about him, but I hope he's not listening.